Hi, my name's Jamie. You might know me, you might not. Kind of all depends on where I post this video really, which probably won't be on my personal page for my first ever video because I'd be too darn scared. But basically this video is just going to be an introductory to me, but all of my videos will be based around mental health, mainly anxiety and depression and other conditions related to that. Bipolar, unipolar, various things that you can feel and experiences that you can have that that can have an impact on how you feel physically and mentally. Firstly, I'll start with going over a bit about me. I'm going to try and get it out of the way because I've done this video 3 times because I've got new recording software and I've cocked it up 3 times in a row. So it's very late now, but basically I was a long time anxiety sufferer. I had anxiety at school. I had a panic attack which was triggered by eating something really hot when I was younger. That then led onto a bit of an eating disorder. Actually, I couldn't eat anywhere really other than at home for about 2.5 years without having another panic attack, and that was because I'd associated eating with a panic attack, so I was terrified of eating anywhere if it was out, because when I ate I was out. And that's sort of where I remember sort of things really starting for me. I had a bit of a problem with drugs sort of through school, and then sort of as I left school, and for quite some years after I left school actually, sort of a mixture of different drugs, which again I'll talk about later on in this, but for now it's safe to say, if you're watching this and you have taken a lot of drugs and you don't anymore, don't worry about it. You've not done forever damage, but it takes time. I've had drug-induced psychosis, schizophrenia. I've been diagnosed unipolar, bipolar. I apparently have ADHD, which I've had as a kid, which I now have in a different form as an adult. It's not so much an necessity for attention on me, more just a severe inability to focus for long periods of time. But what I have learned to do over the years from all these things is look for help and accept that I needed help and find ways of getting better. And I've done that. I have got better. It was forced upon me really because I'd ignored all these issues that plagued me and let them sort of come and go and sort of just go to the back of my mind, to the point where I just sort of drank a lot to deal with it. Smoked a lot of cigarettes, a lot of weed, as you do. Numbed it all out, and eventually I had a nervous breakdown. I know that medically that's not a recognised term, but I think that's bollocks. I had a nervous breakdown. Everything in my body was shot to shit. I was stressed, I was tired, overworked, in debt. A lot of things were not happy with my job. So I just had, regrets and stresses and strains, and they came to a head and sort of, one morning I woke up, my heart was pounding out of my chest. My throat was constricted, I couldn't breathe, I was shaking, I was depersonalised, I guess would be the word for it. Didn't feel like I was really there, everything felt all weird and foggy, and that was my life for about a month. I didn't leave bed because I was scared if I moved and made my heart beat any faster it would kill me. I didn't eat, couldn't sleep, I just sort of was in a catatonic state, I guess. I just sat and stared at a wall, terrified to even move an inch in case something bad happened. Then came continuous panic attacks for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I think one day I had 12, maybe 14. One would go for half hour, 40 minutes. I'd walk around, race around, trying to walk it off, go get out, try and get in the woods, or I'd run, but it wouldn't go, and then it would slowly stop. I'd think, oh, I'm alright. I'd come home. And then it would start again and again and again. I spent days and days barely at home, just roaming around in my car, sitting outside hospitals and things like that, which sort of brings me on to the next part of it. I developed some really unhealthy coping mechanisms. My coping mechanism was that because I thought I was dying, I needed to be at hospital all the time. So I spent days of my life. I spent Christmas Day 2 years in a row in hospital. Didn't tell anyone I was there, lied and said I was going for a drive because I didn't feel good. and spent all day in a waiting room and then in A&E getting blood tests, things like that, to be told, Mr. Bittnell, you're fine. We've looked at your records, you've already seen a cardiologist, he said you're fine. Well, I was convinced I was sick. I had cardiophobia as well, so another anxiety, something that spins off of anxiety and isn't actually hypochondria, because hypochondria is worrying about everything. I have very little interest in stupid little things about my body. If I get a headache, I take a paracetamol. If I get certain things, I don't think everything I get is cancer and things like that, and that is slightly more like hypochondria, is everything that goes wrong with you worry about. Cardiophobia is a very specific health anxiety that's literally focused on your heart. You're convinced your heart is failing you, and you want to escape your body because you're terrified, because you think that any minute it's going to let you down, so you live your life on edge. There was one day where I spent literally all day in A&Es. They kept sending me away, so I went to 6. I went to 3 different ones, all simultaneously. So I went to St Richard's, I went to Worthing, and then I believe after Worthing I went all the way to Surrey Hospital, the Royal Surrey in Guildford. And then when they got me out for the afternoon, because I was there about 5 AM, I'd then done a loop and done the whole lot again, because I knew that staff would have changed shifts, so it wasn't quite so embarrassing for me to go back to accident emergency. I think I asked how many times I'd been when I'd reached a slight level of sanity again, and the nurse had told me, and this was about this time probably a year and a half ago, sort of when it was at its height of a nervous breakdown, should I say. She told me I'd been admitted to A&E in the last 6 months 89 times. So got my money's worth out of my tax I've been paying for my life anyway. Definitely got my money's worth out of the NHS, but it was embarrassing and pathetic, and I hated it. I hated what I was doing, but my rational brain knew it was mad, knew that I didn't need to be there, I wasn't sick, but my irrational brain was giving me all these physical sensations before the rational brain could take over. And once the irrational brain started those sensations, logical thinking won't bring you down. You have to ride it out. The part of your brain, and I'm not even going to go into names right now, but I might do. I've got a brain that comes apart behind me somewhere, so I can go through all the different functions of the different lobes of the brain. But the part of your brain that triggers the fight or flight response, that instant response that you need if you're about to get hit by a car, you're about to get stabbed by someone, you're about to get attacked by a wild animal, that has to work in a fraction of a second. You can't wait to think about whether it's a good idea to respond. You just respond. You jump out the way of that ball that's flying towards your face. Your rational side of your brain, and that takes a lot longer, 3-4 seconds. And the problem with that is that once you become terrified of something, once you're in that situation again and you react the same way as you did before, which is by panicking, your rational brain can't stop you from panicking, even by trying to rationalise with you, because the other part of your brain has already told you it's a threat and you've started panicking. So then it's a case of calming. It's a case of realising you're in no fear before the situation happens, realising that when you get the palpitation, it isn't life-threatening. And once you do that, when you get it and there's no response by you whatsoever, you just sit there like, I had a palpitation, carry on drinking your tea, watching your film, you don't get lost in your own thoughts and start overthinking it. Once you do that, you've won. Yes, it might take a few months for that automatic sort of response to happen because of neuroplasticity. Your brain has moulded and learnt that is a threat and that's a problem, so you need to teach it that it isn't again. But once you do that, the problem is solved, and I'm fairly confident. I'm fairly young to this. I only sort of got my qualifications in CBT and counselling this year, level 3 and 4 advanced counselling and CBT therapy. But I think the amount of experience I've gained through being in and out of psychiatric places and mental health services and suicide watch I was on for a while and various things like that, and seeing how they've dealt with it with me, and seeing how private therapists have dealt with me, and all these different fields and all these different techniques, rapid eye movement treatments and all these things that were tried. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. It's given me a huge army of things that I've learnt firsthand that I can pass on. And as much as these videos aren't medical advice, I don't want them to be taken as medical advice. If you want medical advice, contact me. I'll offer you the advice that I'm qualified to offer. But we obviously have to sign sheets and do it properly. And I want people to contact me, but I also at the same time hope that a lot of people get help just by the videos that I'm going to post. So anxiety is horrendous. It's a horrible condition, and it comes hand in hand with depression, really. I mean, anxiety can quite often come first, I believe, and it causes you to then become depressed. I know quite often they say take an antidepressant because you're anxious, so it's probably depression, but I'm not sold on that idea, actually, because the chemical imbalances that cause anxiety are not the same ones that cause depression, the same as the chemical imbalances in a schizophrenic are not the same as the chemical imbalances in someone with depression or anxiety. They're all different levels of serotonin and dopamine and different things going wrong with them that cause different conditions. They're not all the same, and that is where the doctors go wrong a lot of the time, is prescribing depression medication for someone who's anxious, when actually someone that's anxious does not need any more serotonin to get them up going even more, because quite often they're full of energy, nervous energy. They don't need more energy. They need probably more dopamine, and they need psychoeducation. They need teaching how to understand their brain and why it's doing what it is, and then they can learn how to stop it doing it. But you don't get that education by just taking a drug and numbing the feelings, because they don't deal with the root cause. So we'll go through various things over these videos over the coming months, years, however long I do this for. I know I'll probably get only a couple of people watching me at first. I hope eventually I get a load of people watching me, because I have a keen interest in this and I just want to help. So I hope I get a load of people watching me. We can get some bloody, we can get some merch going, like all the other vloggers and bloggers and all the other people that do that seem to get, I watched a guy the other day and he had 10,000 people watching him, and he was driving a truck simulator. I mean, each to their own, but I would hope that this is slightly more worthwhile. But who knows? Maybe I've just got a slightly overinflated ego of what it is I have to offer. But I do feel I have a lot of advice, a lot of actual practical experience, and meeting someone you can relate to really does help with that. Help with an anxiety condition, and I can probably relate to most of the things you've experienced. It took me a long time to recover, and I didn't think I ever would. I thought I'd be sick forever. I thought eventually, really, I'd be forced into doing something utterly daft. And thank God the right people are out there if you look properly for them, because, I can live a normal life again, and I'm so happy. I've got my wife, I've got my house, I've got my dog, and at the time they meant nothing to me because I was so lost in my own head. But now I'm like, Christ, if I had lost that. So it's always worth fighting, and there's always help available. There's a lot of free help as well. I don't know so much about the States, but in the UK there are so many charities that you can speak to and contact. It's just swallowing your pride and not feeling embarrassed and having the courage to do it, to ask for help. Once you do that, things get easier. They do. They really do. They take time, but they get easier. So yeah, anyway, if anyone does watch this and there's anything that's specifically on their mind, send me in a question. I could do the next video on it. You're probably only going to be the only one person watching me right now, because it's the first ever video I've done. I've never been active on YouTube at all, so I'd be very surprised if many people watch this one. But if they do, if it gets popular, let me know what you want me to talk about next. Otherwise, I'll probably do something related to maybe non-specific chest pain, maybe twitching, some explanations as to why you can get that, and how you can help it. Maybe some herbal remedies that I use. Nothing illegal. I may have used those in the past to cope with it, but in the long term they make things worse. But there's certainly plenty of lifestyle changes, dietary changes, things you can eat, things you can drink, apps you can use, you know, different techniques that can just help you calm down and get some sense of peace back in your life, because anxiety is literally like someone screaming inside your head 24/7 when it's going on. There's no rest from it, and I understand that, and I do just genuinely want to help. So night or day, give us an email on sunrise.avenue2021@gmail.com, or go onto our Facebook. So it's www.facebook.com/Sunrise Avenue, and fire some questions away. Get in contact, and if you want anything one-on-one, I obviously offer that. So again, we're contactable via the email address, or by Facebook. Like I say, when I get to grips with this more, I'll put some little snazzy things popping up on the screen, and it'd be fantastic. I'd love to be able to just help people, and that be my life. So yeah, let's get this going around, and let's see how it goes. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.